Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Today we're going old school bucket saw. So we have a Stihl, this is a 015L. Been sitting in my shelf in the shed for quite some time, and it doesn't start. If you guys were watching my short video, I couldn't get it going, but I managed to get these two going up here. So that's my objective. We're gonna try and fire it up today, see how it runs. So let's start with the basics. And those are, you need your fuel, you need spark, and you need some compression. So, simple tools here. I'm going to start by checking for spark. This one here, the spark plug's located right at the back. And we've got typical spark plug that Stihl's been using forever, which is a BPMR 7A. And I'm just going to use the spark plug tester. This one's going to be a little bit tight because it's got the small end on the top of the plug, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to get the quite as I need to. That doesn't seem like it's going to work out for me, so there's another way around that. We can just go here, clamp to the plug itself, and then find a good ground somewhere. I think the muffler should be a decent ground, and then look for some spark. Oh, make sure it's on. And in all honesty, I can't see any spark. So let's try and get rid of the tester, see if I ground out the plug just itself, because that might work too. Because without spark, we're not going to go far. Oh yeah, plenty of spark. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. Just wasn't getting good connection with my spark tester. Now next up, we're going to check for some compression, and that means I need my compression tool for that. So Stihl doesn't always advertise compression tests like what you're supposed to be looking for, but I'm pretty sure if I've got anything between 95 or up, I'm in good shape. So 0 to gauge here, a couple of pulls, and we've got just about 150. So I would say that's pretty healthy. So we're moving on to some gas. So that tells me at this point, if we don't have any, if it's not firing up, it means that we're going to have a problem with the carburetor. So one way that I like to do that and see if the carburetor is faulty is I'll kind of cheat and I'll use something flammable directly down the throat and see if it kind of burps. So let's open that up. We're going to take the chain guard off at this point, and just over here is our carburetor. This one's mounted sideways. We got our little screen, and I'm just going to go find something a little flammable, put it right down the throat, and see how it goes. So apparently parts cleaner is extremely flammable, so let's try that. I'm just looking for a little bit of a burp. If I had ether or something like that, that'd be good as well. I don't want to go crazy with this, so let's set everything to start and see what happens here. Right away, we got something, so let's take the carb off, put it in the dunk. In order to remove the carburetor, we've got a couple of Torxes. We got 1, 2 down here, and 3 down in here as well, which removes the whole handle, sorry, not the handle, but the recoil assembly as well. Oh, and I'm going to have to pull the choke knob out. And I feel like there's something else holding me up here. Oh yeah, that makes sense. It's a spark plug that I just put back in place. That'll make it easier. There we go. That's much easier. Kind of a whole assembly. I mean, that's what makes these bucket saws so convenient to work with, because they're all one piece for a lot of points. And they're so handy. I mean, I'm hoping to keep this in the back of my side-by-side when I go trail riding. One thing I like to do as well, guys, when I'm about to remove the fuel line, I like to crack the gas tank cap a little bit loose just to let the pressure out, because that way there you're not going to get a whole bunch of gas in your eyes, you know. And I probably should be wearing some safety glasses. And just like that, got the whole assembly here. We're not going to need all of it, so we're going to leave the screws behind, and we're also going to leave the isolator, hopefully without tearing the gasket much more than it already is. And that actually could be causing an issue, because if there's any air being sucked in between the cylinder head and the carburetor, it could be a potential for a lean condition. So, and running too lean will also not only melt the cylinder or the piston, it'll not draw enough fuel, hence the lean condition. Got my little basket here for my ultrasonic cleaner. We're just going to take this carburetor apart. This is an old school Walbro. This is before Zama was bought over by Stihl, because now Stihl uses almost exclusively Zama carburetors, if I am correct on that. And if you guys know more than me on that, please comment down below. Tell me what you think about these carburetors. Like I said, this is a Walbro. Not a bad carburetor. Quite simple, really. So we're going to take a look at all of the insides here and just look for dirt, anything that's obviously wrong, and as to why it would not allow gasoline going into the cylinder. So this is looking really nice here, so we're going to put that back. Our gasket looks nice. This is still pliable, by the way. If this was dry and it was all like wrinkly and crinkly, I'd be replacing it. But the solution I use, which is hot water and just dish soap, tends to bring them back to life for some reason. I guess maybe the petroleum base allows that to work. So we're going to take cover off here as well. And that's going to be like our needle and seat base. We have another gasket back here, and it's in decent shape as well. Now it's also important to make sure you have the right float height, or maybe not float height, but the tang here has to be at the right height. There's tools for that, and I'll be showing you that when I go to reassemble. And this is our needle. I like to put these aside. And we got a couple more diaphragms in here. And again, I am not seeing anything that stands out. Everything seems to be pretty good. So it's, oh, wait a minute. I spoke too soon. There is, I'm going to see if I can zoom in for you guys and get nice and close. Right down here, there's a little bit of dirt in the screen. And that little bit of dirt tells me that if it was in here, there's a good chance that it's in some of the orifices here in the whole body of the carburetor as well. So that's kind of a good sign, as long as I can get that stuff loosened off and cleaned out. So let's go dunk it in the ultrasonic, throw it back together, see if it fires. Alright guys, it's a couple days later. I managed to get the carburetor all cleaned out, blew it dry. It's all nice and clean compared to what it was. And I also ordered and received a gasket set and a carburetor kit. So we're going to put those in right now, and hopefully, with any luck, we're going to get to hear this chainsaw run for good. So the first thing I like to do after I order and receive a carburetor kit, especially since this is an older unit, I like to open it up, put it in a pile separate from the old stuff, and just compare everything. You might end up with extra gaskets or extra diaphragms or any of that stuff, which is fine, but you want to make sure that it's the same as what was in there, especially if you know it hasn't been tampered with, and I don't think it has. So This is the old set. So we're just going to start comparing a few things here. And after we've determined that everything is the same, we're going to start reassembling. So after you've determined that the kit appears to be correct, one thing you're going to want to do is install the little screens that it came with. So this is the old screen, and these screens protect any dirt from coming into the carburetor through the inlet. Now this one, it's done its time. It looks pretty nasty. It's all folded over and stuff. So, and it's even rusty. So this is the new one. Oh, and they're pretty thin. So you want to make sure that it's clean. Then you sit it over top. And the easiest way to install these, I mean, yes, they do have tools for this stuff, but find yourself a socket or anything of the same diameter, slightly smaller, to be able to push it in. This happens to be what I'm going to use, and push it all the way in to the bottom. Don't have to push very hard, because after it's in, it stays in, and that's how that looks. Just like new, we're going to prevent a lot of dirt from entering the carburetor in the future. So let's continue assembling. So it's been actually a couple days since I've had this apart, and it's sometimes quite easy to forget. Luckily, I can go back to my videos, and so can you, to see how it came apart. But another good indication that you know you're on the right track is they usually put little indentations or little divots sticking out, whatever you want to call them, and you want to make sure that those line up and correspond with the carburetor and the gaskets. So in this case, that's how it's going to fit here, and then it should go something like this. And of course, you don't want to be making any new holes. You want to make sure it just sits properly, and just like that. So now this side with the new screw, see, where did I put all my hardware? Right in here. Put in the, it's not a new screw, but a clean screw. Goes back in, and then we'll flip it over, do the other half. So on the other side, the reverse side, this is actually quite an interesting carburetor, because I don't play around with these too much, but there is two separate gaskets on the, I'm going to call it the float plate, for lack of terms. It's important that you make sure you have the right one, because there are two separate ones. This is the right one, because if I put it over top, everything lines up. If I put this one, you'll notice there's an extra cutout. So that is one that we don't want to put, so that one goes aside. Now I'm going to slowly peel this one back and install the new one and carry on. Alright, so I got this part back in place. I've got the float or the needle plate in place. Next thing I want to do is I want to make sure I have the right needle height. So I happen to have a measuring tool for Walbro. This happens to be an HDC Walbro. So what you do is you take the tool and you look down on these, on the numbers to see where it sits. And there's your HDC, which tells you that it's using this side. So in reality at home, you guys can do this with just a flat straight edge or a ruler. You're going to go across the top, and you want to make sure that it's just to say touching the lift arm, right? But you also want to make sure you have your spring back in place here, because if you don't have your spring, like I forgot, it ain't gonna work. So I gotta take this back apart, put the spring in. Carburetor's all back together. I've got the right float height, and what we're gonna do now, we're gonna install our new intake gasket. So we're gonna align the hole on the top with the hole on the carburetor, put in our two long intake bolts. That's going to help us align everything. That's going to be followed by our isolator. And the isolator block also has a couple of orientations. You want to make sure that that goes in correctly and it's also clean. And then that can be dropped onto the cylinder head like this, all as one piece, and then screwed in. Now I'm actually using a very, very small screwdriver to do this, but I'm going to do the final torque with obviously the proper size. And on the back side, we just put on fuel line here, and then using my nice Leatherman tool that I always carry with me, not sponsored, but I do love them. right over here. I don't know what I'd do if I lost these. Honestly, they're always on my pocket. Now we can reassemble the whole thing. Cross our fingers, hope it starts. One thing I did forget to do though is my throttle. So that's also very important, because without the throttle, how are we going to make it go brum brum? Now we can. So let's put it all back together. Cross our fingers. Saw's all back together. Let's hope it starts. I just put some gas in it, so we're going to make sure that we have it at run. So that's run there. We're going to, just like every Stihl, you need to squeeze the throttle, lock the throttle open, make sure you got your choke on, and start pulling. Now, as you guys know, the carburetor is going to be completely dry, so it's going to take a couple of pulls. But comment down below how many pulls you think it's going to take before it actually starts. I'm going to guess 6. Hopefully I'm right, because if it's more than that, it's going to start hurting. But let's see if I can get it going fairly quickly here, if it even goes at all, because, well, everything should work though. Let's try it. So that's 6, still nothing. Let's keep going here. So that's 12. I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to give it a little bit of gasoline right down the throat, just to see if I can help it out. Because sometimes it's just because the diaphragms are a little bit dry and nothing wants to move. So let's just cheat here a little bit. Okay, let's see what happens here. See if we can keep it going. Oh. There you have it, guys. We did it. This old relic runs again, and it actually runs pretty darn good for a saw that's, well, actually, according to the printout on the stamping, I should say, for the carburetor was built in '78. So that's the same age as Susie. So it's good, it runs awesome, and I'm going to be enjoying it because pretty soon I'm going on an adventure with the side-by-side. So I'm going to keep this in the back with a can of gas and some oil, any event that I ever needed to cut some branches or something like that might be in the way. Having that said, I'm going to end the video here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, comment down below. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already. It means a lot to me. And as always, I will catch you all in the next video. Oh, and as I always do lately, there's always a tip of the day. Today's tip is going to be comparing your old parts with the new parts that you just purchased. I'm not talking just carburetors like we did today. It doesn't matter what you're talking about in today's era. Brand new parts can be sometimes bogus, or just the manufacturing process has been cheapened. So make sure that the part is actually going to fit before you spend all that time and effort to put it in to find out that it doesn't do the job. So again, thanks for watching. Catch you all next time.